to session 2, which will be about expressing a wish. Consider sentences A, B, C and complete with 1. Regret about the past situation. 2. Regret about the present situation. 3. Desire. We've got sentences A, B, C. Which one do you think expresses a regret about the past situation? Which one expresses a regret about a present situation? And which one expresses desire? So, let's read again sentence A. Individuals which governments would help promote a job opportunities problem. B. Individuals which there were a lot of job opportunities. C. People which education had strengthened institutions. So in which sentence do you think desire is expressed? And in which one do you think regret about the present situation? And in which one regret about a past situation? We will notice that in sentence A, we are expressing desire, which is expressed in fact by the would have. People, individuals here, want to have this. They want governments to promote job opportunities. They are expressing their desire for future. In sentence B, individuals wish there were a lot of job opportunities. In this situation, we notice that individuals, in fact, do not have a lot of job opportunities. This is present in their present situation. So, we notice that this is a regret about a present situation. Let's go to sentence C. People wish education had strengthened institutions. You remark here that the tense moves to past perfect, which is exemplified by had strengthened. We can deduce here that we are talking about a regret about a past situation. That is, it's finished in fact. We are speaking here about a past situation. Regret about a past situation. I don't know whether there is something to add here. There is a third point we are going to move on to, which is obligation, necessity, and so, dear pupils, I know you are more accustomed with board working on the board. So let's recapitulate this activity about expressing a wish on the board. As you see, wish is used to express a desire for future, and you notice here wish plus would step. Would here is used to emphasize that we are talking about future. Wish plus would step. In the sentence we have, it says individuals wish governments would help promote job opportunities. That is to say, the desire of individuals is that governments promote job opportunities in the future. Now let's move on to a wish which expresses regret. You will notice that it's divided into two options. One, regret a present situation in which we have wish, the expression wish, followed by past simple, which refers here to present. We are talking about a situation that we do not want, in fact. We would have liked to be in another situation. Individuals wish there were a lot of job opportunities. That is to say, there, for the moment, the individuals don't have a lot of job opportunities. So, they regret this situation. That is to say, regret about the present situation. Again, you notice wish plus past simple. Let's go to regret about a past situation, which is, as you see, emphasized by the use of past perfect. Wish plus past perfect. People wish education had strengthened institutions. What do you understand here? We understand that education did not strengthen institutions. To do some vocabulary, strengthen is to make stronger or to give strength to something, which is strength is force. Strength means force. So people wish education had strengthened institution. In this situation, we are speaking about a regret about a past situation. Let's now move to expressing obligation, necessity, and advice. Let's observe these two examples. We have two sentences, A and B. So consider sentences A and B and say what the underlined words are here, must and ought to. So what do you think these underlined words express? Is it obligation, necessity, or advice? Let's observe example A, for instance. It says, we must admit that hundreds of millions of children reach young adulthood without even the most basic skills. What do you think must expresses here? Is it obligation, necessity, or advice? I'm sure that you recognize must as expressing obligation. Now let's move to the second example and decide whether it expresses necessity or advice. And the example says, educational systems ought to ensure here means guarantee. Educational systems ought to ensure good education for people. Do you think it expresses obligation, necessity, or advice? When you say that educational systems ought to provide or ought to guarantee, ensure good education for people in general, I think you surely recognize that it is advice. Now, there are other expressions for expressing obligation and necessity. B, expressing advice. And there is a third point, which is expressing absence of obligation. Now we will deal with each of A, B, and C separately. Let's start with expressing obligation and necessity. We can use these three sister expressions to talk about obligation and necessity. Must plus stem, has or have to plus stem, and need to plus stem. You will notice that there is a had to here, which is the past form of has or have to. Had to plus stem, which we use to express obligation, but in the past. We will see an example afterwards. So, must plus stem, has or have to plus stem, and needs to plus stem can be used to express obligation and necessity. Let's go to B, expressing advice. Again, we can express advice with different expressions. We can use ought to plus stem, as we have in the example, should plus stem, had better plus stem, and another expression, if I were you, I would plus stem. Again, we will have examples for each of them afterwards. The third point is expressing absence of obligation and necessity. We can use these three expressions. Needn't plus stem, don't have to plus stem, it's the same, and don't need to plus stem. Dear students, move to explain all this with more concrete examples. So let's go back to point A, which is about expressing obligation and necessity. You remember we said that we can use must, have to, and need to. This is what we have in this example. These days, people must stay at home. We can also replace must with have to and say these days people have to stay at home. We can also say these days people need to stay at home because they are obliged and it is a necessity, in fact, for everybody to stay at home these days. Now, you remember we also talked about obligation in the past, which is expressed with had to. Why? Because in fact, we cannot use must for a past situation. We say instead had to and say I missed the bus, for example. You know, generally we don't take taxis to go somewhere. We prefer to take buses because perhaps it's cheaper. So I missed the bus, so I had to take a taxi, which means that since I missed the bus, I was obliged to take a taxi. And you remark that obligation in the past is expressed by had to plus infinitive, which is stem. Let's move on now to expressing advice. Again, as we said, we can express advice, we can give advice to people with different expressions. Ought to, should, and had better. And we can advise our friend, our brother, or any people, any person, by saying, you ought to stop smoking. That is, it's bad for your health, so you should, or you had better, or you ought to stop smoking. As for the expression, if I were you, we can't use it in the same way, so we say, we have an example for it here. If I were you, we are always advising our brothers, we said that if I were you, I'd stop smoking. So this is another way of giving advice to people. And the third point is about absence of obligation and necessity. That is a situation in which we are not obliged to do something. And this example, to exemplify that, to demonstrate that situation, it says, my school is not far. That is, it's not far from my home. So, I needn't take the bus. Since my school is close to my house, I don't need, and I don't have to, or I needn't take the bus. You notice that needn't is followed immediately by the stem. We say needn't plus stem, needn't take the bus, don't need to take the bus, and don't have to take the bus. Students, we have finished for today, and
شكرا على المشاهدة. لا تنسوا الاشتراك في القناة، الضغط على الجرس، الإعجاب بالفيديو.